What's up, everybody? Nyonyxx here with a quick EDM tip of the day. Today's tip is going to be a video I've wanted to do for a while now. It's about 4 different synthesizers and Massive, Nexus 2, Sylenth1, and FM8, and why each of them is better at recreating certain sounds than the other one. I found over the years that certain synths have certain tones and textures they're just better at doing than other things. So it's easiest if you have the right tool for the sound you're going for. You might not have access to it now, but in the future, if you have access to it, it may help you out. So I wanted to explain a few 4 popular tracks and explain what synths they might have used and why that synth is better at creating those sounds. If you can take a really quick second and drop me over 2 or 3 clicks on my description, you'll see a link to a new remix contest for a KDB contest on Talent House. If you could send me a vote or 2 on that one, I would love you forever and I'd really appreciate it. So thank you for that. And let me get started. The first thing I want to play is Avicii. Avicii is very popularly known for using Nexus 2 presets. Almost all of his stuff is Nexus 2 presets, most likely. Nexus is great for real sounds, brass instruments, pianos, bass guitar, just guitars in general, lush pads, stuff like that. So if you need a quote-unquote real instrument sound, your best bet is probably Nexus 2. I'm going to go ahead and play this little clip real quick just so you can hear what I'm talking about. Anyways, you hear the real instruments playing down in the lower in the mix. Those would be best suited for Nexus. That main lead, this might have been a bad example, but that main lead probably could have been made in FM8 as well. But you get the gist. A lot of Avicii's tracks, older tracks, levels, and whatever else hell he made. All those really lush pluck sounds usually come from Nexus. So if you need sounds of that nature and sounds of that timbre, quote unquote, check out Nexus. It's probably good for you. Next, I want to talk about Sylenth1. Again, most of you guys probably know this already, but Sylenth1 is great for supersaws. Most common tracks nowadays, I would say most of the Hardwell. I don't listen to too much big room as much as I used to, but Hardwell, breakdowns, Zeds, some of the Zeds white saws I call them, the big super saws. Sylenth1 is great at saws. I don't use it too much myself, so I'm sure it's great at other stuff. But I think most of the popular artists that make super saw sounds, those big room breakdowns, whatever you want to call them, they're probably using Sylenth. This is a good example of this. Mainly the main lead is what I'm talking about. This is the Z track. That really noisy, the really noisy saw, that said to me that sounds like it was probably made in Sylenth, maybe not. But Sylenth is great at making those sounds. That bass line might have been made in Massive, but again, it's hard to tell. But if you need a very modern sounding saw, electro house saw, stuff like that, Sylenth is great for those. It has that certain, I call it icy texture to it. It's also great at plucks and other things like that. I personally don't use it for many other sounds other than those 2, though I am positive it can recreate those. But if you're looking for a super saw sound, a modern sound, and on some of Zed's tracks on the, I think, Clarity, he has the opening ARP thing. Those kind of plucks, I'm pretty sure the brassy plucks, those can probably be made in Sylenth. Stuff like that sound is pretty beneficial and can be made pretty easily in Sylenth. So if you're looking for those styles of sounds, go and check that out. Next, we have the bad boy Massive. I'll go over this one quick because most of you probably already know about Massive. Massive is great for making tons of, dubstep, electro house, modern sounding, hard, glitchy, plucky, powery stuff. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I'm talking about. But Massive has this certain plasticky tone to it, I call it, so you can almost always tell a Massive synth because it sounds like it's being made in Massive. And it sounds crazy, but I listen to a lot of music, and that's just my personal opinion. So I'll go ahead and give an example of what's most likely something that's made in Massive or partially. Now, there you go, Knife Party, Power Glove, great track. But those sounds to me most likely sound like they're made in Massive. Massive is great at stuff stuff of that nature, harder sounding stuff. It's great at bass lines, obviously, wobbles, wubs, and all that popular stuff, which is why Massive is so incredibly popular nowadays. I personally use it for some leads sometimes too, but some things that Massive is not good at, and I've tried it numerous times and I still can't do it, is not good at plucks. It does not have a good texture on plucks no matter how hard you try, and if you figured it out, that's awesome. I wish I could do that. But not good at plucks, not good at super saws. Go with Sylenth for super saws, but it's great at bass, leads, and obviously effects and stuff like that. Massive is good for, so definitely a great synth. And lastly, I'm going to talk about FM8, which is another native instrument synthesizer. FM8, I believe, is a emulation of a Yamaha DX7, which is a synth that came out in the 80s from frequency modulation, FM synthesis. Really hard to learn. I'm still learning it myself, but it has a certain tone to it that is hard to replicate with other synths. Organs, some kind of belly tones, like, you know, bells, other things of that nature can be made much easier in FM8. I mean, with an FM synthesizer, and I use FM8. You can recreate really powerful leads with it. I'm gonna give an example of a Madian track, but it sounds to me like it's made with FM synthesis, even though I think he uses Image Lime's Harmor, and I don't know what kind of synth. I don't use that. I don't know what that is, but you could recreate something very similar and with FM8. Now, in one of my videos, you may have seen I recreated that lead with Massive. It sounds pretty shitty. So I realized Massive really isn't good at making those kind of sounds. To get something very similar to that texture, especially with those attack settings and those attack textures, FM8 is great for that. The organ presets, you can tweak them and get something close to that. And again, FM8 is great for stuff like that. Also, FM8 will make a more, I don't know how to explain, a less plasticky style bass growl. Some artist, what is that artist name? It's gonna bother me. Kona Sound, and there's someone else, and the name is escaping me right now. Anyways, some of those artists, they have Noisia. I think it's how you pronounce it. Anyways, they have some bass sounds that sound more hard and less plasticky than the typical Massive sounds. I would reckon that those are most likely made in FM8. FM synthesis kind of has a certain sound to it, so if that's a sound you're going for, it's, you know, a lot easier to use that synth. All right, that's probably utterly confusing and probably took a long ass time, but hopefully it helped someone. When I first started off, I would try to use Massive for everything, and there's just some things Massive can't do. There's some things Sylenth can't do. There's some things Nexus isn't good for. There's some things that FM8 aren't good for, etc. But if you know the benefits of each one, you can achieve your final sound a lot quicker instead of just plucking through presets all day, hoping to find that magic preset when in the end the synth might not even have that tone or texture with it. Anyways, hope that helps somebody, and again, if you made it through this far of the video, if you could drop me 2 or 3 clicks in the description for that remix contest, I'd appreciate it. Got any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.